Guys, they did an interview. The president and vice president, if you can believe it. Exclusive interview with President Trump and Elon Musk. Hosted by Sean Hannity, our favorite guy. Take a look.
I got to start with this. So he's working for free with Doge. He's kind of put a lot of his life on hold. And you sued Twitter a number of years ago. You just made...
Right off the bat, you know, wealthiest man in the world. Just totally altruistic. Definitely nothing, you know, no benefit being taken from completely seizing control of the government. So a puff piece of propaganda? Yeah, of course. What, do you think Elon and Trump are going to be doing adversarial interviews?
Made him pay you $10 million?
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Well,
That's
I sued from long before he had it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they really did a number on me, you know, and I sued and they had to pay, they paid $10 million settlement.
You're okay with that?
I mean, I left it up to the lawyers and you know, the team running Twitter. So I said, you guys do what you think is the right, it makes sense.
I think it's funny.
I think
God, he looks like
it's
such
a very
a
low.
fucking
I was looking to get much more money than that.
So you gave him a discount when the lawsuit.
He got a he got a big discount. I don't think he even knows about it.
He's become one of your, if you read and believe the media, he's become one of your best friends. He's working for free for you.
Well, I love the president. I just want to be clear about that.
Twitter.
You don't care about that.
I know. I love the president.
You love the president.
I think President Trump is a good man.
Kiss.
And he's, you know.
It's nice the way he said that, you know? There's something nice about it.
It really is. You know.
It really is.
Because, I mean.
You're not going to get much productive out of me for this 40 minutes, by the way. This is another one of the... It's literally like a fascist puff piece. I might as well read Mein Kampf and then, like, shake my head at the camera every time I read something that's wrong. You know why we're here.
The president's been so unfairly attacked in the media. It's really outrageous. And I've at this point spent a lot of time with the president, and not once have I seen him do something that was mean or cruel or wrong. Not once.
You know, I've known him for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anybody take as much as he's taken.
Yeah.
And we've discussed this, and I'm like, how do you deal with it?
Did I have a choice?
Well, you would say that to me. I'm like, what am I going to do? Worry about it? And, you know, and then culminating in 2 assassination attempts, which resulted in your endorsement.
Well, I was going to do it anyway, but that was
that was it.
Precipitating event. Yeah.
That speeded it up a little bit?
Yeah.
The day of the assassination.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It sped it up, but I was going to do it anyway.
Idiot. That's just like trying to manufacture a pretext, and Elon is like, well, no, obviously I was going to do this anyway.
Mr. President, with your indulgence, I'm convinced that people only know a little bit about Elon. I don't think they know everything about Elon, because as I studied and prepared for this interview.
Incredible, by the way. Here's our first real sit-down interview with the President of the United States. Let's hear a little bit more about this guy, this unelected official right next to you, know? Because we know who's really in charge. Elon. Oh, Elon for a while was really insistent that people call him Elon because it sounds more sci-fi, but then he gave up on it. You can find a few videos of him trying to like push that and getting really dejected when people wouldn't do it. And then he gave up on it.
I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. I think people will think about Tesla. Democrats are demonizing you and trying to make the country hate you. I just want people to understand you a little bit better, and the person that you've gotten to know and have now put a lot of trust in.
Yeah.
And, you know, just let's go over a little bit of your bio, starting with PayPal and how you became involved in Tesla and SpaceX and Neuralink and all these.
A while. I mean, you know, I think the way to think of me is like I'm a technologist, and I try to make technologies that improve the world and make life better.
Your shirt.
Yeah, and that's why I like my T-shirt says tech support, because I'm here to provide the president with technology support. And now that may seem like, well, is that a silly thing? But actually, it's a very important thing, because the president will make these executive orders, which are very sensible and good for the country, but then they don't get implemented. You know, so. If you take, for example, all the funding for the migrant hotels, the president issued an executive order. Hey, we need to stop taking taxpayer money and paying for luxury hotels for illegal immigrants, which makes no sense. Like, so obviously people do not.
Well, actually, it was literally being done in the pursuit of processing undocumented immigrants. They didn't have enough detention space for people, so they started paying out rates for private accommodations, which was pretty much the only thing they could do. They weren't all luxury hotels. They were just taking up the hotel space they could. Literally like a thing being done to advance the processing of immigrants, but
not want their tax dollars going to fund high-end hotels for illegals. And yet they were still doing that, even as late as last week. And so, we went in there and we're like, this is in violation of the presidential executive order. It needs to stop. So what we're doing here is one of the biggest functions of the DOGE team is just making sure that the presidential executive orders are actually carried out. And this is, I just want to point out, this is a very important thing because the president is the elected representative of the people. So he's representing the will of the people. And if the bureaucracy...
They have been pushing this so hard. As again, like we functionally don't have a democracy anymore. So it's the like the Democrats or the democratically aligned person, their insistence on like procedural authority versus the imaginary fascist, well, we have the will of the people, even though 93% of the public approves of the, the Park Service, we're going to cut thousands of employees from it. It doesn't matter what the people want. What matters is like the imaginary will of the people.
Bureaucracy is fighting the will of the people and preventing the president from implementing what the people want. Then what we live in is a bureaucracy and not a democracy.
No.
That's so smart, man. It's like when those midwits on the right are like, we don't live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic, as though those are mutually exclusive things. No democracy could exist without a bureaucracy. It's impossible. How could you possibly manage the process the votes without a bureaucracy? He's so smart.
You're both aware, you have to be keenly aware that the media and the punditry class, not that, I think you've proven they have no power anymore because they threw everything they had at you and they didn't win. And that was,
But they still have infinite power selectively. Whenever they, it's the fascist, like they're in power, they're not in power thing. They're very strong, they're very weak. You are the media. So it's like you're going to bounce between like, oh, they're powerless, we won overwhelmingly. And in actuality, the deep state still exists. Elon still tweets like that, by the way. Like the people they've already beaten are the real victors in society who are secretly control everything while they enact unitary executive theory.
The New York Times, Washington Post, 3 networks, every late night comedy show, 2 cable channels, they threw everything, lawfare, weaponization.
Sure.
And now I see they want you two to start, they want a divorce. They want you two to start hating each other. And they try, President Elon Musk, for example. You do know that they're doing that to you.
Oh, I see it all the time. They tried it, then they stopped. That wasn't, they have many different things of hatred. Actually, Elon called me. He said, they're trying to drive us apart. I said, absolutely. They said.
Elon said that? He like called preemptively? He was like, hey, I saw some tweets where they're calling me President Musk. Just to let you know, like, I don't think of you that way.
We have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. And I say, It's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president. Because I think nobody in history has ever gotten more bad publicity than me. I could do the greatest things. I get 98% bad publicity. I could do, outside of you and a few of your very good friends, it's like the craziest thing. But you know what I have learned, Elon? The people are smart. They get it.
Yeah, they do, actually.
They get it. They really see what's happening.
Yes.
And at the end of this interview, what I would like is I want people to know the relationship and know more about you. What is the relationship, Mr. President?
Well, I respect him. I've always respected him. I never knew that he was right on certain things.
Between this and Donald Trump being asked if he considers J.D. Vance his successor and Trump saying no, it makes me wonder how much awareness or complicity there is in, like, the transfer of power to Elon socially. Because Trump's an old man, I wonder if, like, if Trump died, I wonder if they would be like, because Elon inherits the will of the president, like he should actually be the president or something. Like they wouldn't go with J.D. Vance because he's not popular enough. They would like lose the sauce or something like that. I don't know. It would be just as illegal as any of the other things they've done.
and I'm usually pretty good at this stuff. He did Starlink. He did things that were so advanced and nobody knew what the hell they were. I can tell you in North Carolina, they had no communication. They were wiped out. Those people were, you know, they had rivers in between. Land that never saw water, all of a sudden it was a river and a vicious, like rapids. People were dying all over. They had no communication. They said, do you know Elon Musk? They didn't really know I knew him. I said, yeah. He said, could you get Starlink? It's like the first time I ever heard of it. I said, what's Starlink? A communication system. That's unbelievable.
I don't think they're going to let a non-American become president. I think with how quickly they have been trying to push the unitary executive thing, and I say trying to, they've succeeded in doing so, I think they might actually do a chancellor bid. They might actually do it. Elon does think he's God, after all. They might actually do a, like, you know, the J.D. Vance graciously declines opportunity to become president, says that he would rather focus on what he focuses on best in the VP slot. Elon Musk, the heroic leader of Doge, who has, like, saved the republic by cost cutting and it has inherited the will of Trump, will be appointed as a temporary acting president. Why not? Like, they're already breaking the law. Why not? Like, what would happen? Who would stop that? Yeah, it does feel like they're setting him up for it, you know? Wouldn't, if Elon really was supposed to be the shadow president forever, don't you think he'd be more, I don't know, shadowy? Like, why the f*** is he so loud with it?
I have it.
Yeah, and he said, I called him and I said, listen, they really need it. And he got like thousands of units of this communication, and it saved a lot of lives. He got it immediately, and you can't get it. I mean, you have to wait a long time to get it. But he got it to him immediately, and I said, that's pretty amazing, and I didn't even know he had it. We watched the rocket ships, and we watched Tesla. I think, you know, something that had an effect on me was when I saw the rocket ship come back and get grabbed, like you grab a beautiful little baby. You grab your baby. It just...
Hug the rocket.
I've never seen...
Right, everything needs a hug, including rockets.
No, but... And he said, you know, you can't really have a rocket program if you're going to dump $1 billion into the ocean every time you fly. You have to save it.
Right.
And he saved it. First time that I've ever seen that done. Now, nobody else can do it. If you look at the U.S., Russia, or China, they can't do it. And they won't be able to do it for a long time. He has the technology. So you learn, I wanted somebody really smart to work with me in terms of the country, a very important aspect. Because I mean, he doesn't talk about it. He's actually a very good businessman. And when he talks about the executive orders, and this is probably true.
Genuine question. Have you ever heard Donald Trump talk about anybody like this? Normally, when he talks about other good businessmen, he does so in an adversarial sense. You know what I mean? Or fake adversarial, where he's like, oh, that guy is a hell of a dealer, but, you know, I could whittle him down. Have you ever heard Donald Trump just, like, nonstop glaze anyone like this, apart from himself? He's in love. He doesn't talk about his kids this way, not his wife. He doesn't talk about Xi or Kim or Putin this way. Like, this is just completely unprecedented. He never talked about Vance or Pence this way.
True for all presidents.
Yeah.
You write an executive order and you think it's done. You send it out. It doesn't get done. It doesn't get implemented. They don't implement it. Maybe they're from the last administration, and they are in some cases. You try and get them out as fast as you can. But I could, as soon as he said that, I said, you know, that's interesting. You write a beautiful executive and you sign it and you assume it's going to be done, but it's not. What he does is he takes it, and with his 100 geniuses, he's got some very brilliant young people working for him that dress much worse than him, actually.
Yeah,
they dress in just T-shirts. You wouldn't.
It sounds like how an enigmatic, you know, drunkard Chinese emperor would describe his closest consuls. You know what I mean? The 100 geniuses, they go from, like, town to town, just admitting he doesn't understand how the government works. Well, you don't need to understand something to break it.
You wouldn't know they have 180 IQ.
Wait a minute. So what he's your tech support.
No, he is.
I actually
but he's
am
much
tech
more
support.
than that.
I actually am tech support, though. But
he gets it done. He's a leader.
Yeah.
He really is. He gets it done. You get a lot of tech
He doesn't
people,
talk
and you
like
have
this
people
about
that go to
anyone.
Tech, but he gets it done. You know, I said in real estate, you had guys that would draw beautiful renderings of a building, and they'd draw the rendering. It would be great, and you say, great, when are you starting? But they were never able to get it built. They couldn't get the financing. They couldn't get the approvals. It would never get done. And then you have other guys that are able to get it done. You know, they could just get it done. I was in real estate. Same thing in this. He gets it done. So when he said that, he said, you know, when you sign these executive orders, a lot of them don't get done, and maybe the most important ones. And he would take that executive order that I'd signed, and he would have those people go to whatever agency it was. When are you doing it? Get it done, get it done. And some guy that maybe didn't want to do it, all of a sudden, he's signing. He just doesn't want to be bothered.
Do a lot of those executive orders have to be codified into law? Do you need the Republican Congress
and
to
they
follow
will be.
up?
A lot of them will be, yeah.
They will.
But look, in the meantime, we have 4 years. The beauty is we have 4 years. That's why I like doing it right at the beginning. Because an executive order is great. I mean, the one problem, it's both good and bad. Because when they did all these executive orders, I've canceled most of them. They were terrible. I mean, we're going to go radical left communists. Okay, it was crazy. Their executive orders were so bad. If they ever got them codified, you'd never be able to break them. So the damage that Biden has done to this country, and it's not even Biden, it's the people that circled him in the Oval Office, okay? But the damage they did to this country, in terms of, let's say, open borders, you know, there's so many things, but open borders where millions of people poured into our country, and hundreds of thousands of those people are criminals. They're murderers, they're drug dealers, they're gang members, they're people from prisons from all over the world. And we have a great guy, Tom Homan, and he is doing so
reel it back. You're talking about someone positively who isn't Elon.
95%.
He is a phenomenal guy. And Kristi Noem is doing an unbelievable job. And he wanted her. He said, she's so tough. And I said, I don't think of her as that way. You know, she's very nice. He said, no, she's so tough. And she is. I see with the horses. She's riding the horse. Let's go. She's great. But the team we have is really unbelievable. But those executive orders, I sign them. And now they get passed on to him and his group and other people. And they're all getting done. We're getting them done.
Let me go back a little bit to your background, because it's beyond impressive. You were the chief engineer, for example.
Why does Elon do this hand thing, or do that hand thing? He's extremely self-conscious. You can tell all the time that he's thinking about how to hold his body. He's always doing some weird, like, standing stiffly, or like he never seems to, like, naturally. He's very autistic. I mean, was never an engineer. No, he's never been an engineer.
Oh, you were an early believer in Tesla. You became the CEO, and then the chief engineer, which was phenomenal. SpaceX, same thing, which is unbelievable. I mean, you were the first private company to send astronauts successfully into space. First private company to send astronauts into orbit.
Yeah.
That's pretty deep.
He's going to go into orbit.
Deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, he's going to go to Mars. He's
Starlink.
At some point. Yeah.
Is in over.
I mean, they always ask me, like, do you want to die on Mars? And I say, well, yes, but not on impact.
Starlink is in 100 countries. This is going to be hard. I feel like I'm interviewing two brothers here.
You go ahead.
Star Shield, which could be used for national defense.
Yeah, it is already being used for national defense.
Then you have what is it called? Optimus, a part of Tesla.
The robot, yeah.
A robotic arm. Then you have an AI arm. And then you have something that really fascinated me. And it's...
I know some of you want me to comment on everything, but, like, again, the whole point of this is Elon glazing, apparently. I mean, there was literally, like, a chapter summary up through here. It seems like none of this is about Trump. Look, the final section, Trump, Elon is a very good person. It's this whole thing. I'm telling you, man, they're setting him up to be the president. Like, my initial estimation, my opening guess was that Elon was going to be like the de facto president by controlling things behind the scenes, hence the shadow president stuff. But it kind of seems like he wants the limelight too much. He's too obsessed with people's approval and attention. He's a lot like Trump in that respect, except obviously Trump is much, much more charismatic. So it seems like, I don't know, like in the absence of that, I feel like they might just set him up to try to, like, hold that perceived institutional power as well.
Called Neuralink.
Yes.
You might help the blind to see, and people with spinal cord injuries
Oh yeah. No, I mean, none of that's happened yet, but, like, you might, you know. Oh, they got rid some of the federal employees they got rid of, by the way, were the people who were investigating the efficacy and ethics of the Neuralink product, if I remember correctly. So clearing the path there.
They can recover, where in the past, how close is that to becoming a success?
Neuralink, we've implanted Neuralink in 3 patients so far who are quite...
Oh, sorry.
allows them to directly control their phone and computer just using their mind, just by thinking. It's like, so we call this product telepathy. So you control your computer and phone just by thinking, and it's possible to actually control the computer and phone faster than someone who has working hands. Then the next step would be to add a second Neuralink implant past the point where the neurons are damaged, so that somebody can walk again, and so they can have full body functionality restored. And
you like Bobby, right?
I like Bobby, actually, yeah. I think I supported Bobby Kennedy. I think he's unfairly maligned as someone who is anti-science, but I think he isn't. He just wants to question the science, which is the essence of the science. The scientific method fundamentally is about always questioning the science.
Well, they didn't tell us the truth about COVID.
Correct.
That's for sure.
This is kind of like because a lot of what the Trump administration has been doing feels like it makes a lot of sense in a utilitarian way, where you're like, okay, so they're trying to rape the country, rob the poor of their wealth. And then you wonder, okay, but what RFK Jr. represents is bad for everyone. Like, literally all people. There will be very wealthy people who don't get like their kids vaccinated or whatever. They're like the prevalence of this disease would be devastating to the economy of the world. Like, it goes beyond that. So what's the point there? And it just goes back into the death cult thing, right? Like, you have to remember Silicon Valley fascists, Peter Thiel types, they're not just like cold utilitarian rationalists or whatever. These people are actual psychopaths. Like, they engage in like pagan rituals to the AI god. They're crazy people. So yeah, it's just important to keep in mind, like, Hitler, Himmler, they both thought, there were like artifacts of ancient deities strewn about the world,
Sure.
Yes.
And we learned a lot with the Twitter files. And that just then raises a question. You're the richest man in the world. You may not like that part. Yeah. You're pretty competitive.
It's neither here nor there.
I've known you a long time. But
that's why
but he's on your team. Well, that's true. He can't top that.
He's good. I wanted to find somebody smarter than him. I searched all over. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't. You
really tried hard.
I couldn't find anyone smarter, right? So we had it for the country.
But this is the thing.
We settled on this.
Well,
guy.
thanks for having me.
So
I'm just trying to be useful.
He's never talked about
this is where we are as a society.
Like this. Nobody.
I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to do it anyway. You're doing all of these things. Nobody at Doge gets paid a penny, correct?
Well, actually, some people are federal employees.
Some are, okay.
Yeah,
they're helping.
But I think it's fair to say that the software engineers at Doge could be earning millions of dollars a year, and instead of earning a small fraction of that as federal employees.
Okay, so
and they're very committed people.
So
yes.
You're committed to helping the blind see, people with spinal cord injuries recover.
See, does it not feel like that's what they're doing? This is Christ-like deification. This is beyond. This isn't even like, how do we appeal to the interests of our constituency, of our viewers? This is just complete kowtowing. This is like you're making a god emperor. It's such obvious propaganda. Yeah, but it goes beyond that, man. Like, it's messianic attribution to a person who isn't even the guy they voted for. It's not just, hey, let's help our leader here, It's crazy.
Yes. You're committed to getting to Mars. You're committed to rescue. You're going to help rescue next month 2 astronauts that I think were abandoned. They dispute that in an interview.
When are you getting
Oh, how nice of Sean Hannity to casually mention that what he's saying is a lie. Do you think Trump recognizes how profoundly stupid Elon is? I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? His brain's pretty soupish. What if they're trying to elevate Elon as a Trump successor, Vosh? What a great idea. What if? Why hadn't I thought of that?
Request or instruction, we are accelerating the return of the astronauts, which was postponed kind of to a ridiculous degree.
They got left in space.
They've been there. They were supposed to be there 8 days. They're there almost 300.
Biden.
They were yes, they were left up there for political reasons, which is not good.
Okay, it's not good. Now, if I had the weight of the pressure of doing that successfully on my shoulders, I think I'd be, But when we spoke before we did this interview, you are very confident. You think this will be a successful mission.
Well, we don't want to be complacent, but we have brought astronauts back from the space station many times before, and always with success.
I haven't really talked about this due to mostly, like, if I recall correctly, like underfunding of NASA. That's kind of like the ultimate reason for this happening. 2 astronauts who were supposed to be up for only a little bit. They haven't come back down yet. They've been up there for a long time. They haven't been abandoned. It's literally just like the gutting of our institutions. They've, by the way, cut more from NASA lately. So this problem is only going to get worse. Not that we're going to have NASA soon. NASA's going to like exclusively contract with SpaceX. Every dollar that goes to NASA is just going to be rerouted to SpaceX. No, it's all Boeing's fault. Yeah, but isn't the reason they were relying on Boeing because of NASA defunding? Like the reason that NASA's been doing so much like subcontracting is because, yeah, whatever. Anyway, it's not a political thing at all. It's literally just like a technical thing. But of course, never waste a crisis, right? Never waste a crisis.
So, as long as we're not complacent.
When are you going to launch?
I think it's about 4 weeks to bring him back.
About 4 weeks?
Yeah.
And
we're being extremely cautious. Yeah.
You now have the go-ahead.
Yes. Well, thanks to you.
They didn't have the go-ahead with Biden.
What's that?
He was going to leave him in space. I think he was going to leave him in space.
Well, it's like
He
when we
considered
were
it
growing
like-
up, lost in space.
Yeah, he didn't want the publicity. Can you believe it?
Unbelievable. And so
Yeah.
I want to echo something that the president said and then ask an overarching question. So people get hit with Hurricane Helene. They have no communication with the outside world. You come to the rescue. You donated that, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. You donated to the people
He saved a lot of lives in North Carolina. He saved a lot of lives.
and California after the wildfires?
California, but I mean in North Carolina where they were really in trouble, they had no communication. People were
Nothing.
dying. They were dying of starvation. He saved a lot of lives in North Carolina.
Okay. Now you're going to rescue astronauts. And now... And again, you do.
It's just all
of
Elon
this.
glazing. Yeah, what am I supposed to say with we're mostly just like witnessing this, you know? I know it's difficult to listen to. It's the reason why I'm partially, like, to be honest, partially checked out because, I mean, what do you want from me? What do you want from me, man? I'm going to lose my mind. Yeah, when are you going to be able to walk on water? It's literally all just glazing.
I would think liberals would love the fact that you have the biggest electric vehicle company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be adored by the left, you know.
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days.
He killed that, huh?
Then he announced that he was a Republican out to head off a story about giving a woman $250,000 so she would keep quiet about him telling her to touch his penis. Yeah.
I mean, less.
I really didn't know.
Sorry,
this
$250,000 and a
whole
horse.
sort of, you know, they call it like Trump derangement syndrome, and I didn't. You know, you don't realize how real this is until like it's. You can't reason with people. So, like, I was at a friend's birthday party in LA, just a birthday dinner, and it was like a nice, quiet dinner, and everyone was behaving normally. And then I happened to mention, this is before the election, like a month or two before, I happened to mention the president's name, and it was like they got shot with a dart in the jugular that contained like methamphetamine and rabies. Okay, and they're like,
Why the f does he move like that?
the dart in the jugular that contained like methamphetamine and rabies. Okay, and they're like, wow. And I'm like, what is wrong, guys? Like, you
What's that tweet? Elon's always moving like he's trying to be the next meme format or something.
can't have like a normal conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like they become completely irrational.
Do the jump, Elon.
He has no idea, but if you're friends with him,
Yeah.
you pay a price. You know, it's like I walk in a restaurant in New York and it's like half the room it's daggers and they want to.
No, the eye daggers level is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like I had like some invitation because so I got invited to like basically a big sort of damn event like that was, but I received the invitation like the beginning of last year, and I still attended even after I'd endorsed President Trump, and I didn't realize how profoundly that would affect how I was received. I mean, I walk into the room and I'm getting just the dirty looks from everyone. Like, if looks could kill, I would have been dead several times.
I really want to know what they did to Trump to make him capable of being this agreeable. You know what I mean? For him just sitting there quietly. He did this at the Oval Office too. Quietly, respectfully. Every time he opens its mouth, it's to compliment Elon. I don't think it's money. No, I don't think it's like that. Like Trump's ego goes beyond his desire for wealth. They buck broke his ass, man. Elon Melania in front of him or something. I don't know. There's something to it. Trump has Neuralink. It's got to be it. It's got to be it.
over.
But that was not before Trump.
Ashes on the floor.
Before Trump, that never happened, right?
No.
This is the $1 million or billion dollar
There's a cut
among
between
billionaires question. So you have all of this going on, and you stop. In a way, you're still doing it, and you partner with him. And this is what you get for it from the Democrats. You get, nobody voted for Elon. Well, nobody voted for any of your...
Why the f is the audio so bad for this section? Can I live? Am I allowed to live, like, legally? Is it that bad on the Fox News clip?
With President from the... And you partner with him. And this is what you get for it from the Democrats. You get, nobody voted for Elon. Well, nobody voted for any of your cabinet nominees. Okay. People are dying because of Doge cuts. I'll give you a chance to respond to all that. What Doge is doing is illegal. Elon Musk is more street vernacular for a male body part. It's a constitutional crisis.
Okay. Why are they reacting like this?
Well, first of all, do you give a flying rip? Oh, number one, and
well, I guess we must be over the target or doing something right. You know, if like they wouldn't be complaining so much if we weren't doing something useful. I think. What all we're really trying to do here is restore the will of the people through the president. And what we're finding is that there's an unelected bureaucracy. Speaking of unelected, there's a vast federal bureaucracy that is implacably opposed to the president and the cabinet. And you look at, say, DC voting, it's 92% Kamala. Okay, so we're in 92% Kamala. That's a lot.
they don't like me here either.
I think about that number a lot. I'm like 92%. That's basically almost everyone.
Yeah.
And so
it really makes you wonder why federal workers would not like people who are openly antagonistic to federal workers, you know? You just have to wonder, like, if there's anything prejudicial about our giant, openly stated campaign to replace federal workers with a team of loyalists who will act as yes men to our agenda. Yeah, it's just really strange, you know? There's got to be some kind of collusion to it.
But how can you, if the will of the president is not implemented, and the president is representative of the people, that means the will of the people is not being implemented.
So this is, again, like, just straightforwardly fascist rhetoric. Like, this is just authoritarianism explained. Like, no, there should be no holds on presidential power because the president is actually the will of the people. So through the will of the people, like, this is just verbatim what Hitler said. Like, verbatim. No difference at all. Everything that he did to consolidate his own power was justified off the argument that, well, my power is representative of the people, so anything that stops me is anti-people, you know? This is, yeah, not much else to say, really.
And that means we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy. And so I think what
you
we're
already
seeing
said
here
that!
Is the sort of
a line so clever, he had to say it twice.
As we try to restore democracy and the will of the people. Is this making sense? I mean...
No, of course it does. I mean, to me, if you look at our framers and our founders, and
the audio is kind of fucked for this clip.
You really become a student of history, Mr. President, and we've had conversations both on air and off air. And if we talk about constitutional order or transformational change, nobody can argue that what's happening here is it's going at the speed of light. But however, what were the principles of our framers and our founders? They wanted limited government, greater freedom for the people. And we'll get to the specific cutting of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is your goal, is it not?
Yeah, and my goal was to get great people. And when you look at what this man has done, I mean, it was something. I knew him a little bit through the White House. Originally, I'd see him around a little bit. I didn't know him before that. And I respected what he did. And he fought hard. You know, he was maybe questioned for a while. He was having some difficulties. It was not easy doing what he did. I mean, how many people have started a car company and made it really successful?
Like, literally not a word to offer unless it's glazing Elon. Like, nothing else. No, nothing else. Not even self-glazing.
A better car where it's, you know, beating these big companies. That's all they do.
And yes, of course, everybody knows that Trump for a long time didn't like Elon, probably because Elon's a puerile, sniveling little rat and a bitch. So, like, everyone knows the tweets. But, like, it doesn't matter because we've rewritten history.
Cars. I mean, it's really amazing the things that he's done, but I didn't know it as much then as now. I mean, the fruits have sort of taken hold. But I wanted great people. And he's a great person. He's an amazing person. He's also a caring person. You know, he uses the word care. So they signed a contract in a government agency, and it has 3 months, and the guy leaves that signed the contract, and nobody else is there, and they pay the contract for 10 years.
Yeah.
So the guy is getting checks for years and years and years, and he's telling his family, obviously, maybe it was crooked, maybe he paid to get the contract, or maybe he paid that they didn't terminate it. But, you know, we have contracts that go forever, and they've been going for years. And they're supposed to end in 3 months or 5 months or 2 years or something, and they go forever. So the guy is either crooked, you know, where he knew this was going to happen, or he's crooked because he's getting payments that he knows he shouldn't be getting. But they're finding things like that. They're finding things far worse than that. And they're finding billions, and it will be hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fraud. I say waste and abuse, but fraud, waste, and abuse. And he's doing an amazing job. And he attracts a young, very smart type of person. I call them high IQ individuals, and they are. They're very high IQ and high IQ. And when they go in to see the people and talk to these people, you know, the people think they're going to pull it over. They don't. These guys are smart, and they love the country. You know, there's a certain something. But he uses the word care. So people have to care. Like, when I bought Air Force One, I negotiated the price. It was $5.7 billion, and I got them down to $1.7 billion. Now they're not building the plane fast enough. I mean, they're actually in default. Boeing, they're supposed to have been building this thing for.
Sorry, he pulled me into the weave for a little bit. What are we on?
We don't build the way we used to build. You know, we used to build like a ship a day, and now to build a ship is like a big deal. And we're going to get this country back on track. We can do it, but so many things. It takes so long to get things built and get things done. And a lot of it could be something we've been discussing. The regulators go in and they make it impossible to build. They make it very difficult to build anything, whether it's a ship, a plane, or a building, or anything. And some of them do it because they want to show how important they are. Some of them do it maybe because they think they're right. They use the environment to stop progress and to stop things. It's always the environment. It's an environmental problem. It's not an environmental problem at all. But they do a lot of things. And by the way, speaking of that, Lee Zeldin is going to be fantastic in the position. So important. He could take 10 years to approve or disapprove something, or he could do it in a month. You know, just as good. Sure. And I think you're going to see a fantastic job done by him. He's a tremendous guy.
Newt, you echoed something when I just met you, and it was very similar to what Newt has been saying, that he brought this country to the dance. This is the opportunity to be transformational and to have, I would argue, the most consequential presidency if we really dig down and do something that had never been done before, and that is get rid of this bureaucracy. And I'm going to get to the specifics. You say the same thing. It's not done yet. And what do you mean by that?
I mean, winning the election is really the opportunity to fix the system. It is not fixing the system itself. So it's an opportunity to fix the system and to restore the power of democracy. And, you know, people like. It's funny how often when these attacks occur, the thing that they're accusing the administration of is what they are guilty of. They're saying that things are being done unconstitutional.
Do you think Elon has Epstein dirt on Trump? There is no Epstein dirt on Trump. Trump was like he's openly on the Epstein list. Like it's not dirt in like, oh, he has secrets or whatever. It's just known publicly. It just doesn't matter, you know?
What they are doing is unconstitutional. They are guilty of the crime of which they accuse us.
That's always the first thing they do. He's in violation of the Constitution. They don't even know what they're talking. Well,
it's absurd.
It's just a con job. It's a big con job. And they're so bad for the country, so dangerous and so bad. And the media is so bad. When I watch MSNBC, which I don't watch much, but you have to watch The Enemy on occasion, the level of arrogance and cheating, and they're just horrible people. These are horrible people.
They tell conspiracy theories.
And they start up with the Constitution. They couldn't care less about the Constitution. CNN, likewise. I mean, I watch them asking questions with you know, the hatred with the, I said, why are you asking the question with such anger? You're asking me a normal question, but you see the bias. The bias is so incredible. Those two are bad. PBS is bad. AP is bad. CBS is terrible. I mean, CBS now, they changed an answer in Kamala. They asked her some questions. She answered them like, you know, a low IQ person, the opposite of him.
I love the constant deference to IQ as an insult for her and her specifically. Also, what he's saying right now is a lie, but you know that.
The absolute opposite. But she gave a horrible answer. They took the entire answer out and they put another answer that she gave 20 minutes later into the as the answer. I've never even heard of that. I thought I heard of it all.
I'm going to just...
And this is of course not true. There wasn't really anything interesting in the edit.
For the sake of saving time, because I could spend, and I've done this on radio and TV, I can spend an hour finding the outrageous amounts of money being spent abroad, like USAID, and I just want to mention a couple.
The $8 billion in savings.
I guess at a high level, I think it's what the president mentioned earlier, which is that in order to save taxpayer money, it comes down to two things: competence and caring. And when the president was shown the outrageous bill for the new Air Force One, and then negotiated it down, if the president had not applied competence and caring, the price would have been 50% higher, literally 50% higher. The president cared, the president was competent, the price was not 50% higher as a result. And so when you add more competence and caring, you get a better deal for the American people.
But we were talking about this yesterday, I could give me thousands of bills, I could pick any one of them,
exactly.
But I could take all 1,000. And let's say it's a bill for $5,000, just $5,000, and it's...
I really do have the hardest job in the world. Sometimes when I feel a little bit self-conscious about not saying anything for a minute while watching a video like this, I think, man, I'm really letting down my audience. And then I remember, what would they do in my position right now? And honest to God, I don't know. I don't know what you could say to this without bloating the runtime to 3.5 hours by responding to every single thing with a, like, nuh-uh. You could do like a Mystery Science Theater 3000-esque, like, cat-calling over the video kind of bit. It's a lot, there is a lot of yapping. There is a lot of yapping. There is a lot of napping. They're very old. He is. This is why they win. If only we vocally annotated their videos more, we might have won that election. That's true.
By some bureaucrat. And if he would say, I'll give you 3, I don't want to pay you 5, it's too high, I'll give you 3. But they don't do that. If a guy sends in a bill for $5,000, they pay $5,000. They expect to be cut. Everybody expects to be cut. When you send in a bill, you expect to be cut. They send in the bill higher for the most part. This is true with lawyers, legal fees. When they send in legal fees, I can cut. I wish I had the time. I would save so, but I could cut these bills in half, much better than half. But you offer people a much lower number because you know they actually put fat. I'm not even saying it's like a way of business. They put more on because they expect to be negotiated. When you send in a bill to the government, there's nobody to negotiate.
Yes.
You send in a bill for $10,000 and they send you a check back for $10,000. If you would call them and said, we'll give you 5. No, I need more than 5. We'll give you 5. I'm not going to pay any more than 5. Make it 6. No, I'm not going to make it 6. And you'll settle for $5,500. You've just cut the bill almost in half. And it took like 2 minutes. But none of that's
Someone call that the art of the deal?
But that's caring. No, it's not even the art of the deal. It's caring. He uses the word, it's caring.
Yeah.
It's a certain competence, but I think it's more caring than competence.
If you add either ingredient, either competence or caring, you'll get a better outcome. But it stands to reason that if you don't have competence, you don't have caring, you're going to get a terrible deal. And the problem is that the American taxpayers can...
Just as somebody who's been following Trump for what feels like a very long time now, the idea of Trump promoting a strategy for negotiation in prices that is not the art of the deal is absolutely insane to me. That shit has been like a core component of Trump's identity for decades. It has been like it's like a catchphrase. Like, even if you haven't read it, and I haven't read it, it's like a component of his public identity, you know? And for him to go like, no, this isn't the art of the deal. This is the new Elon thing. This is the new Elon thing, you know? What happened to my goat?
been getting a terrible deal, because look at the last administration. Can any reasonable person say that the last administration was either competent or caring?
But they lied to us and said that Joe didn't have a cognitive decline.
They fully lied.
They said the borders were closed. They said that the borders were secure. They said that,
right.
You know, they said Obama.
Well, they definitely did lie about the Joe Biden cognitive problem thing. That is certainly the case.
Obamacare would save.
They flat out lied.
It flat out lied.
This is why Doge is so important, Senator Tim Scott. I'll keep that in mind. I'll keep that in mind.
Welcome back to Hannity, and we are in the Washington swamp.
We're in the home stretch.
For years, far-left bureaucrats burned through your hard-earned tax dollars on woke political causes, Green New Dealism, transgenderism, and, you know, even anti-American propaganda. Those days are now over. More of my interview with President Trump and Elon Musk. As I scroll this information, and I'll scroll a lot more than I'll mention to both of you, and this is the cost savings. I want people at home to understand this part. Average American makes $66,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay? We have $37 trillion in national debt.
Yes.
Now, all the money I'm about to mention and what we're going to scroll on our screen, and all of this is going to foreign countries. It is not being spent here in America for better schools, law and order.
I think.
Yeah, it's aid. Yeah, it's literally foreign aid. That's like none of this foreign aid is being spent in America. Really? You're telling me?
Average tax-paying Americans should be mad as hell because their tax money is being poorly spent.
All right, let me go to the second question first.
I hate soft power. I hate it when people live and are happy. I hate spending pithy amounts of our GDP on preventing HIV from spreading to tens of millions of women and children who are affected by it in West Africa. I hate incentivizing nations to kowtow to us and be amenable to our business interests for a tiny fraction of the money we get from investing there. I hate it. I hate it.
I want to know, because people like Joni Ernst and
Joni Ernst has tried for a long time, and she's actually got a lot of good data. Senator Ernst has been really helpful, actually.
Okay, but they actually hide what the real purpose of the spending is.
Sure.
In other words, this is a question. How did you decipher? It will say humanitarian blah, blah, blah in Serbia or Afghanistan. We even give money to China, for crying out loud, which I think is nuts.
We'll give money to the Taliban.
But money to the Taliban.
Like a lot.
All right, so
I'm like, for what?
But
I want to see the pictures of what they did.
But
for what? Shouldn't you know? You're the one dismantling all of this. Again, keep in mind that all of this aid that we provide, all of it's like publicly available. The American government is actually, for the most part, pretty transparent. It depends on the department, but they're pretty transparent with the money they spend, you know? You can literally, like U.S. spending, you can see where all this money goes. Now, obviously, if you're trying to look up how the Pentagon spends its money, that's a little bit more difficult. But, you know.
Try to obscure it, but then you got to the bottom line, which is what I'm now scrolling on the screen.
Yes.
And that is $20 million on a Sesame Street show in Iraq, $56 million to boost tourism.
I hate American soft power. I hate using a tiny amount of money to develop American-based media and outreach in foreign countries so that their children grow up recognizing American cultural symbols and therefore becoming, like, you know, allegiant to the United States. What? You're telling me Iran controls Iraq? You're telling me Iran has disproportionate power over their neighboring country? Well, surely there was nothing we could have done to have stopped this. I don't think they understand what soft power is. No, I don't. I think, there's a lot of stuff they're doing that's for personal gain, but I genuinely think, in this case, they are too stupid to understand what soft power is. $3.5 to help the next generations of Georgia be civically engaged.
In Tunisia and Egypt.
I wonder, in what way does it benefit America to spend money in Georgia encouraging their population to be more civically engaged? Is it possible that there might be a way in the future that this could benefit us? Like, I don't know, the population becoming increasingly resistant to Russian foreign occupation and breaking free and developing, like, business contracts with the United States. Again, like, look, I'm as anti-American empire as the next guy. I don't know if ceding it to other worse empires is necessarily preferable, but all of this is what American power looks like, you know? U.S. aid is a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of our spending.
$40 million to build schools in Jordan, $11 million to tell the Vietnamese to stop burning trash, $45 million for DEI scholarships in Burma, $520 million for consultant-driven ESG investments in Africa, DEI programs in Serbia. The president's favorite. I'm sure you love that taxpayer money was spent on a DEI musical in Ireland, or a transgender opera in Colombia, or a transgender comic book.
It sounds like how can these things be real? But this is actually what was done. It sounds like a comedy sketch. Or
I have 20 pages of this.
Right. It's not.
Remember what I said before about the U.S. Postal Service? How it's not enough to just rely on a functional institution. You have to be an active advocate for it, like 24/7. Like if you like something in society, you have to be a cheerleader for it nonstop forever. Because if you don't, malicious actors who want desperately to undermine that thing will lie about it. That's how I feel, you know? This is why the Democratic impulse to become more moderate will always fail, right? When faced with opposition, you need to become a cheerleader for everything that you love. You need to hold a 24/7 rally, proselytizing all of it. You know, you need to talk about it the way, you know, reply guys talk about their faves. You need to talk about it the way stans talk about their idols, the way priests talk about God. You have to go crazy for that shit.
Listen, my law.
If you had to put a number on it, how much do you think you've identified waste, fraud, abuse, corruption at this point? And again, we're going to be scrolling this throughout the program.
Well, the overall goal is to try to get $1 trillion out of the deficit. And if the deficit is not brought under control,
I thought the goal was $2 trillion. I'm almost positive the goal was $2 trillion. They bringing it down?
America will go bankrupt. This is a very important thing for people to understand. A country is no different from an individual in that if an individual overspends, an individual can go bankrupt, and so can a country. And the massive waste, fraud, and abuse that has been going on, which is leading to a $2 trillion a year deficit. That's what the president was handed on Jan 20th, a $2 trillion deficit. It's insane.
For this fiscal year.
Yeah, we inherited.
Yeah.
And inflation is back. I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation
there
is
for
back.
a week.
No, think of it. Inflation's back. And they said, oh, Trump inflation. I had nothing to do with it. These people.
Inflation was down for the entire last 18 months of the Biden presidency, and it ticks back up literally right as I assume office. Couldn't have been me. Couldn't have been me.
People have run the country. They spent money like nobody's ever spent. They were given $9 trillion to throw out the window. $9 trillion. And they spent it on the Green New scam, I call it. It's the greatest scam in the history of the country. One of them. We have a lot of them, I guess, but one of them. Dollar-wise, probably.
DEI and wokeism and transgenderism.
Well, that's all part of it, yeah.
And LGBTQ+.
I feel like you should learn from your enemy here and maybe take a little lesson from the fact that Republicans have spent the past decade screaming about the Green New Deal, a thing that didn't happen, talking about it as though it did happen. And it really makes you reflect on, like, if there's no relationship between what I do and what they're going to attack anyway, wouldn't it make more sense to actively defend the things they're attacking me over? Like, has there been literally any positive outcome to Democrats being like, well, we didn't do Green New Deal, we abandoned it a decade ago? No. So why not just do the good thing anyway? Just do the good thing anyway, and then defend it. Because by not defending it, it makes it look like you're shifty. You're uncommitted. The average Republican thinks the Green New Deal did and was happening, and Democrats just refuse to acknowledge or own up to it or defend it.
Us? Yeah. By the way, not in America. Other countries, not here.
You know,
they said Kamala Harris was crazy woke. They said Kamala Harris was like super left-leaning pro-trans. She never mentioned trans people during the whole runabout after the DNC. She shut the fuck up about them. It didn't matter.
The thing is when you see like the teaching of DEI, $9 million. How do you spend $9 million to teach? No matter what it is, you could teach physics.
Totally.
You could go to MIT for a lot less.
Expensive.
Yeah,
expensive.
The teaching of DEI.
Yes.
How much do you believe, Elon, you've identified in waste, fraud, abuse, corruption now, and how much do you anticipate you will?
Sure. I think
1%. No, because it's so massive. This is huge money.
So what we found now is 1%.
We're just got
as
started.
Good as they are, they're not going to find some contract that was crooked, crooked as hell. I mean, there's going to be so much that isn't found. But what is found, I think he's going to find $1 trillion.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think it's a very small percentage compared to what it is.
Let me go to an area that I think is key, and you talked about this in recent interviews, and that is we don't need a Department of Education. Okay. And what some people are trying to do is stoke fears that, oh my gosh, my kid's not going to get the money for education, or grandma's Social Security and Medicare. This was a big promise of yours on the campaign trail. So I really...
How much is the total spending? Nobody knows how much Doge has actually cut because all of it has been illegal, only documented by Doge, and they're lying about what they've cut, and they're also falsifying government records to hide the trail of what they've cut. So it's possible that the next US budget might be representative or unrepresentative, or it might like not describe the actual shift in the allocated, like all the numbers are fudged, so we actually have no idea. Apparently Elon is contemplating kicking every American citizen a $5,000 check, which if it was every American citizen, what would that be? Like 5,000 for like 200 million eligible people or so. I don't know if they're like giving it to kids or whatever. 200 million. I'm stupid. 100 billion? No, more than that. How much was that? Why can't they do math right now? 1,000 times 200 million is 200 billion. So 5 times 1 trillion? Yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to be the money president. I'm going to be the everyone. I'm going to give everyone lots of money. Only to Trump voters, though. Well, they would want to give it to everyone in order to like cement support, which the crazy thing is that would probably actually work pretty well to shore up support for the Trump administration up until the economic collapse.
Really want to give you both an opportunity to assure the American people you will keep, that money will be allocated for students, but with higher standards. For example, I would assume associated with monies given or
just
vouchers.
So much, and then Elon goes, but look, Social Security won't be touched, other than if there's fraud or something, we're going to find it's going to...
Other than if there's fraud, Social Security won't be touched unless, hypothetically, Shadow President next to me went on a tweeting spree alleging fraud in ways that revealed his inability to understand basic government programs and spreadsheets and stuff like that. And in that case...
be strengthened, but won't be touched. Medicare, Medicaid... none of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
Medicare's not going to be touched. Medicaid's not going to be touched. Even though they're literally already drafting plans to cut Medicaid and increase work requirements and stuff. Just nothing. Whatever. You think he's even in the know? You think he knows?
You don't have to. Now, if there are illegal migrants in the system, we're going to get them out of the system and all of that fraud. But it's not going to be touched. School. I want to bring school back to the states so that Iowa, Indiana, all these places, Idaho, New Hampshire, there's so many places, the states, I figure 35 really run well. And right now it's Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, China. China, can you imagine, has top schools. We're last. So they have a list of 40 countries. We're number 40. Usually we're 38, 39. The last time we were number 40. And what I say is you got to give it back. So it doesn't work. I'll tell you what we're number 1 in, cost per pupil. We spend more money than any other country by far. It's not even close per pupil. Okay. So we know it doesn't work. So we spend the most and we have the worst, right? The worst result. When we give that back to Indiana, when we give that back to Iowa and back to a lot of the states that run well, they run well.
Oh, yeah.
35,
Indiana,
37,
Iowa.
38. Now, you're going to have 10 laggards, but you're going to have 5 real laggards. But that's going to be okay. Take New York. You give it to Westchester County. You give it to Suffolk County. You give it to upstate New York. And you give it to Manhattan. But you give it to 4 or 5 subsections. Same thing in California. Los Angeles is going to be a problem, but you're going to give it to places that run well. We can change.
This is why I say you shouldn't be too optimistic about him doing like across the board cuts to the Department of Education, because there is no way he's actually going to cut that much help to red states, you know? He'll literally be like, "Oh, glorious Oklahoma, Oklahoma, where every student gets the greatest education, unrivaled in the entire United States. We'll give them lots of money so they can help their beautiful children. New York, folks, New York, it's a dump. We all know. Like it's you know, I wouldn't expect much consistency."
Education. Now, school choice is important, but that will get taken care of automatically. We want to bring education back to the states. You will spend half the number, and I'm not even doing this. I'm not even doing this to save, but you will save. It costs you much less money. You get a much better education. If you go to some of these states, you'll be the equivalent of Norway, Sweden, Denmark, places that really have a good school system.
Famously, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, etc., got their high-quality educational systems by cutting federal investment and standardization and promoting things like, you know, school choice vouchers and charter schools. Famously. The only way to reach their level of educational attainment is to do the exact opposite of what they did. No one will expect that.
You'll have those places will be the equivalent, and your overall numbers will get so much better.
Do you want standards associated?
The only thing I want to do from Washington, D.C. is make sure they're teaching English, reading, writing,
math,
and
science.
arithmetic.
Science?
Okay, a little science.
Science might help.
You know,
computers.
You're not going to have much of a problem with that, but that's it.
So your task now, and I pray to God this is successful. I really do. I wish you Godspeed. You know, Godspeed, John Glenn.
It's going to be, by the way. I really believe.
But there are legitimate areas.
Do well beside this. This is cutting. We're only talking about cutting. We're also going to make a lot of money. We're taking in so much.
What about
money.
His business? What if there is
then we won't
a contract he would otherwise
let
get?
him do it. If he's got a conflict. I mean, look, he's in certain areas. I mean, I see this morning, I didn't know, but I said, do the right thing, where they're cutting way back on the electric vehicle subsidies.
Yes.
They're cutting back.
You're losing.
Not only cutting back.
Hurt you.
Correct.
Yeah. Now,
you don't care.
I won't tell you.
Well,
he's probably not that happy with it, but that would have been one thing he would have come to me and said, listen, you got to do me a favor. This is crazy. But this was in the tax bill. They're cutting back on the subsidies. I wasn't involved in it. I said, do what's right, and they're coming up with a tax, but it's just preliminary. But I mean, if he were involved, wouldn't you think he'd probably do that? Now, maybe he does better if you cut back on the subsidies. Who knows? Because he figures he does think differently. He thinks he has a better product.
Yeah.
And as long as he has a level playing field, he doesn't care what you do, which is he's told me that.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't asked the president for anything ever.
And if it comes up, how will you handle it?
Get a fit check on Elon.
Well,
what is he wearing? He's wearing a felted wool top coat over a T-shirt, and it looks like shit.
Involved.
Yeah, I'll recuse myself if it is.
If there's a conflict, you won't be involved. I mean, I wouldn't want that, and he won't want it.
Right, and also I'm getting a sort of a daily proctology exam here. You know, it's not like I'll be getting away from something in the dead of night.
Welcome to D.C. If you want a friend, get a dog.
Well, I do have a dog, but I also have friends.
Yeah.
It's too autistic to actually run with a joke. Oh, man. He got defensive over it, probably because he doesn't actually have friends.
My dog loves me, poor little creature.
You know the truth?
Jesus Christ.
I need to bring him to D.C.
I know every businessman. I know the good ones, the bad ones, the smart ones, the lucky ones.
And this is the best there is.
He's a brilliant guy. He's a great guy. He's got tremendous imagination and scientific imagination, far beyond, you keep talking about a technologist and all, but you're much more than a technologist.
You're a friend.
You are that. But he's also a good person. He's a very good person, and he wants to see the country do well. And I know a lot of great business people, really great business people, but they're not really, in some cases, very good people. And I know people that would try and take advantage of the situation. This guy's somebody that really cares for the country, and I saw that very early on. I saw it really a long time ago when I got to know him. He's a very different kind of a character. That's why, who loves him? Young people that are very smart.
How do we feel about that? My takeaways from this, Trump is actually more cucked than I may have initially thought. Like, he's completely broken in, which is wild. And they are preparing Elon to be the actual leader, not just like the de facto leader. Like they anticipating Elon's desire for power and prominence and the fact that Trump is an old man. They are setting the stage for Elon to be the populist frontrunner because JD Vance is just not viable as a public figure. Or maybe if he was, it wouldn't matter because Elon's just that greedy for power. I know that sounds a little bit sensationalist, but again, the president did just invalidate all independent regulatory agencies today via executive order. So, like, I don't know. It seems like we're just living in crazy times. Musk can't constitutionally become a president, though. They couldn't constitutionally usurp Congress's power of the purse by preventing the dispersal of funds allocated in the congressional budget drafted in 2024. And yet, a dog, the Democrat strategy for dealing with Elon and Trump is screaming a dog can't play basketball while they keep getting dunked on over and over. Many such cases.